Hello, Francis Adrian Bonner here, guru at Science and Minds, also known as Melissa Adrian Benet. I've been off my hormones for quite a while now because of constraints in my life. I had a little trouble with my brain, and I had to get back on track by training my own self. I learned some interesting tips and tricks that I want to teach everybody else so they can use this stuff to improve their life too. I plan on getting my hormones eventually, going back on and back in the swing of things. I just have to make sure I have everything set before I end up going through that routine again because well, people around me just weren't ready for it. And I went and did my thing and went broke, went homeless, and had this stuff to deal with. Yeah, that'll be another tale of another fire. This particular video or audio video is for training the concept of knowing whatever's going on around you, period. Having that universal omnipresent like function so you can know where everything is at, know who's late for work, be able to tell engine timings down to a nub. Easily done, but it takes a while. You have to add what I call bobbers. I call it bobbers because it kind of mimics fishing. Picture you're fishing and you want to be able to catch certain kinds of fish. There's different kinds of systems. Some fish like to jump out of the water to grab some kind of bug. Some fish like to eat whatever's on the bottom. Some fish like to chase other fish. It depends on the bait, depends on the bobber, right? So you have what you have is in your brain a little bit of a voiceover you put together on every person you could think of to say, "Hello, my name is so and so." Say you live next to a woman called Janie. Okay, it's gonna be your voice using Howdy Partner script. You're making up Janie's voice. And it has to be silly. It doesn't really have to be her for at first. But you say, here's what Janie would say, right? If she were to be spying on you. Okay. Here's what Joe would be saying if he was going to be spying on you. Here's what uh, here's what Oprah would say if she was going to be spying on you. You just keep making files one after the other of what they would say if they were spying on you. Silly ones. Make yes or no questions to different things. So your brain will put together these things that'll kind of monitor who's knowing what about you when you're doing whatever you got to do. It'll give you an idea who's really caring about you out in the universe. And you'll be able to get to the ebb and feel where some people just aren't going to know what you're doing. Some people will know what you're doing. You'll be able to know if someone can hear you across the hallway as you're listening to the same thing in your brain. You'll hear someone pick up a phone, not be saying other words, but you'll hear your own recorded synapses, your own recorded voices for them in your brain come to life in different subjects to give you little clues of what they might have said. You'll be able to put the picture together like a big puzzle box, and nothing will ever go wrong with your life because you just be able to ebb and flow with all the synchronicity of everything in the world. Now, as I teach you to do this, you'll have the chance to add in dates, years, dates, phrases like, yes, you guessed my age, and my year of birth is four numbers beginning with one. Yes, you gauge my age, and my number begins my birth is two. That kind of thing. Yes, you guess my age, and the fourth number is above five. That kind of thing, and slowly honing in on these little clues per person, and these will be useful once you add a phrase called yes, I am the male that you refer to who is of this age, born on this date. And it'll agree because it'll be like, yes, that was correct. Yes, that was correct. Yes, that was correct for that one idea. So after a time, you'll be able to say, well, obviously, I'm dealing with a male who was born at this year, whose birthday was this time, who's still alive, who has this color eyes, this color hair, if any hair at all, long hair, short hair, does this for a living, and da, 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 da. You get right down to a profile and then say, here's where I most likely am right now in the universe around you. I'm driving a car, I'm at home, and later on you can just kind of look out the window and check to see, there goes that one person with brown hair, blue eyes, who fits your description, might have been born that year. Your brain puts all that stuff back together, and suddenly everybody who's got brown hair, blue eyes, under the age of 50, born a certain year, has a certain birthday, is going to have a certain amount of ways of proving to your brain where they're at. But only a few of them will have to say, here I am 50 feet away from you at 5 o'clock. Here I am 20 feet away from you upstairs in some other room. Here I am across the street. See what I mean? So after a while, you'll be able to put those voiceovers in, and then you'll really be able to ride this pony. Know exactly where everyone is, what everyone's doing, and put the conversations they might have together, and your brain will kind of situation them together, because one person saying one thing will have a witness to the other person saying it, and will proofread your own mind and knowing what was actually said. Now's the part where you have to add the really uncomfortable stuff. Once you get started with the nice things, you're going to have to add some mean things in there. Reason, your brain will finally feel curious to go over them. And if you don't, you'll be faced with them anyway. So you have to somehow make up these phrases of, here's what it feels like for me to be angry at you, here's what I would do. You must have heard me being angry with someone else, here's how I would act, etc., etc., etc. You just got to really put the slug work into it and make sure that every time you add one of these things, you do your mantra, add the phrase in there, make sure it's as universal as possible. Don't get into one person's personality. Only put demographics in. And then put clever phrases that would allow them to situate themselves into a flowchart that will easily maintain a pseudo personality. What you're doing is you're making a robotic flowchart that acts like a person. Make it silly, make it constantly remind you that you are pretending to be this person. This is necessary. After all, if you don't want those people to take you over and do things to you, you have to maintain that control, like as if they're puppets. And this is you acting like them. Always, always, always. You acting like them. One of the biggest mistakes I made through a bunch of people who got to me with a bunch of trickery was making me believe that I had no choice but to listen to this stuff. I had to make my own program to get around it and make my own controls where I am pretending to be these people now. And I made my own flowchart, which is really working great to help further my education and further my memory. And I know you don't have this problem that I had, so you're going to do really even better. The next thing I want to cover is timestamp dates. Always stay current. You don't want to end up with a habit that someone you had years ago without having the latest information. People end up passing on, people change jobs, people get divorced, things change. Make a sort of phrase in three basic areas. He said, whatever the date is, look at the clock. That's what I'm doing now is different than before. She said, whatever the clock says right now, look at it. It's different now. I'm doing something different than I was before. It said, whatever the clock says right now is different than before. I'm doing something different now. Reason why I put it in there, because you're going to have this little area of curiosity in your brain. For some people who don't like to be identified as a male or female, they exist. And every now and then you're going to have a little bit of a program that you're going to put together like a person, a robotic document reader. You're going to want to, because you want to be able to make this stuff work for yourself too, because part of this is you pretending to be a document reader that actually functionally sorts out these files back and forth and takes on the likeness of you performing this action out of recording. The next step, one of those steps in here, when you actually find a way to get around to everyone being able to say me, the definition of me is a universal alias everyone calls themselves that they want you to refer to how they call themselves as a name that everybody has. That's what's defined by. It's like yelling to a bunch of people at work, "Hey you with the apron, or hey you with the hat," when everybody has hats, right? Okay. Same thing with you. You is also a referred to alias that they put together. It says when you want to get their attention, you say, "Hey you," and everybody pays attention, theoretically speaking. In this case, it's a recorded AI that wants to say, who are you talking to? So you want to put a phrase together for checking out on certain system ideas. Say, "Hey you, what's the latest update in our latest program to make this person remember things better?" Well, they're going to have a recorded version saying, "Well, you said this," updating the data, putting it together, and all of a sudden a script comes to life and gives you the latest data according to the time. Pretty soon you have an accurate clock in your brain, an accurate clock in your mind. This part is for making a template of 500 things in a row. You really do have to make a large number of copies in a row that make a serious gesture, so that when your perceiving part of your mind puts together a thing that might have been said, you'll be certain that someone would have said, well, I am certain to this because I said it 500 times in a row. Otherwise, I would have guessed on the way up to those numbers. Why am I saying this? It was stupid if I want to say it, if it was dumb. So after time, you'll end up knowing how to make three basic he, she, and it 500 mantras in a row by simply saying a basic word like, hello, I'm referred to as it. I am not gendered. I'm something of a document, a person, place, or thing, or a transgender person. Say a phrase. After you've done your mantra, do that, and then make a phrase like word. Word, 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 word. All the way up to that number. Whether you want to do 100 or 200 or 300, make sure it's in the hundreds. Mine is 500 on my system. I'm still working on some of the nuances of mine, but it really does work. When you can get a report from one of them that says, well, here's what I would have said, and I'm serious about, it'll always be the truth. This way you'll know they're not going to just blab any old thing. They're going to know that you're going to have placebo feelings for the other person, and you'll know that they were serious about saying it 500 times wrong. Also, recording of yourself doing this. Then, after a while, I want to teach you how to make your own file that defines even further what you are. Now, in my situation, I made sure my name is MEE113. That's my own personal name that defines all the data about everything in my life. It's a long mantra that they can't copy because it would be too difficult to have the keep saying me because everyone refers themselves as me. So there's got to be like one master me. The master me in my situation revolves around a car that I owned at a certain year with a license plate during that year that no one else can mask in my memory. When they start saying I did and they want to refer to something, they really do have to be in themselves and something else other than the person who owned this particular car, this particular year, and the license plate. You see what I mean? So that person can't imitate you. That person can only be their own kind of me. After a time, you'll be able to understand this better, but after a while, you'll just add little bits and pieces based on trial and error. Little bits and pieces of I only had this phrase, only had that phrase. You'll start collecting all these different versions of situations. He said, she said, but didn't mean her, mean other her. He said, she said, but didn't mean her, other her. And eventually it gets right down to a certain someone who's got a name, a demographic, and they're not the actual real people you're dealing with. Now remember, there's a comical version of these people, so you can play with them and get an accurate data and not have to worry about hurting their feelings. How to train in a group. In the Science of Minds class, and the model I put together, I have arranged where the students get together with a signaling system that they know they have to abide by and see each other as different parts of their brain, different parts of the mind, and different parts in each other's minds. So the ultimate goal in one of my classes is to have 500 people in a gymnasium and have them all shout out loud who they are. Basically, they're training you to have each other's back inside of each other's head as a team. I'm still working on that model to be able to help out some of our people out there who are in such a position where they have to act like a team in the field. Still not quite out there yet, but I'm working on it. Right now, I just realized there's different kinds of training to be able to put together for different ways of helping someone make a choice in what's going on in the world, how to detect certain things. For example, you find yourself in a field, put together a big circle of icons like bean bags or tennis balls or something in the grass, and icons signal them to be only a certain thing you would walk to should be something is happening or not. How the other be the opposite. This way, your body has to literally commit to a walk over to the thing to make it serious. And it makes it more easy to tell what's going on in the world than just plain old guessing. After you get used to this, you'll be able to produce this in your brain by basically making how many copies you're willing to make a serious statement.